Whoever's in charge over at Hasbro, indecisions on making movies and whether or not they're going to get passed. And before you rip up scripts, maybe you should think about one thing. The people that really want to see these 80s cartoons come alive.
You're still talking about this stupid 80s cartoon? Nobody cares. When are you going to get it through your head? You're never going to get a movie. Jesus.
Doesn't anybody care about you anymore, Matt? Don't you care?
Now back to Mask and Venom.
Let's talk about M.A.S.K, one of my favorite cartoons in the 80s growing up. This was really a cross between G.I. Joe and Transformers. It was the best of both worlds. Me personally, I wasn't a big G.I. Joe fan, but man, Transformers was my #1. I absolutely loved it. And I didn't really have a problem with Michael Bay taking a shot at making Transformers. And I am guilty of sin. I own every single movie that has came out for Transformers. And along with M.A.S.K, the movie that I want to see happen. This cartoon was so awesome. You got cars that were flying through the air, breaking the laws of physics beyond belief. I mean, this had to be a world with no gravity because the things that flew in this cartoon were just insanely crazy. But it was such a great cartoon. I mean, I was glued to the TV. I made a top 5 of my favorite 80s cartoons, and that was #2 was M.A.S.K. Transformers was #1. Like I said, there's just something about Transformers that as a kid, it was just, those two cartoons for me just absolutely did it. But M.A.S.K is the movie that needs to happen. I'm sorry, who asked for a G.I. Joe movie, let alone 3 of them? All 3 were terrible.
Sorry, man.
Okay.
Get out!
Yo!
Yo,
Chill, man.
get out!
Chill!
Chill, man! Chill!
I just don't understand who is in charge at Hasbro. Now, I understand back in the 80s, these cartoons were simply made to do the one thing that everybody was after, and that is selling toys. You had Playmates, you had Kenner, you had Mattel, you had all these different toy makers making all these toys. But what is the best way to market to any kid? And that is to put together a toy line and on top of putting together a cartoon and comic books. Because let me tell you something, if it wasn't for comic books, Ninja Turtles would have never gotten started. And I'm happy that Ninja Turtles is around. And the very first movie was awesome. But we take risks on all these other movies. I mean, who doesn't want to see M.A.S.K come alive? I feel like there's no fan base. When I used to mention this back in high school or to my friends in my mid-20s or early 30s or even now, people are like, M.A.S.K, what the hell are you talking about?
Masked Crusaders working overtime, fighting crime, fighting crime.
And I'm like, dude, it's free on Tubi. Go watch it. It is just one of the greatest cartoons, and you'll see why this should be made into a movie. Back in 2018, there was a script that was produced by someone. I don't know who it was. It's Wikipedia, so I kind of hate going off of Wikipedia and what they say because it's not all accurate. It's not 100%. Somebody went to Hasbro with a script for M.A.S.K because the comic books were so strong for so many years. M.A.S.K lasted about 2 seasons, and the second season kind of drifted off from what the first season was all about. M.A.S.K is definitely something that needs to happen. I mean, think about how awesome it would be if we had almost every cartoon in the 80s made into a live-action movie. Now, granted, they are all not great. I mean, look at Masters of the Universe. I know in time it has become a cult classic, but that movie was terrible. You had other movies like the Michael Bay version of Transformers. The first one was good, but after that, the storylines are just terrible. And it's just a Michael Bay movie. It's boom, 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 bang, and explosions. And I love Michael Bay, but he didn't have to take it. They just beat a dead horse, and they're still trying to beat it because they're coming out with Transformers Beast Wars. Who is asking for this stuff? Please Show me who is like asking for Beast Wars. I wasn't. I'm not. I'm asking for Mask. You guys need to really think about this. Could be a whole new generation that us parents can share with our kids from the 80s when I grew up having these awesome toys, being able to play with them. And you come out with a movie now, guess what you get to do and make more money, Hasbro? You get to start a whole new toy line. But here's the thing. The one Transformer movie that I absolutely adore is Bumblebee. And you want to know why? Because the second I seen it, the opening scene, it brings me right back to when I was a kid eating that bowl of cereal on Saturday morning, sitting in front of that TV, watching Transformers, watching M.A.S.K, watching He-Man, watching Thundercats, because in Bumblebee, guess what kind of vehicle he is? You guessed it, he's a Volkswagen Bug, the original, what he was supposed to be. And that's what I love the most about it. I understand the direction that Michael Bay was going. He was trying to help Chevy market all their cars, and I get that. And he continued to do that all the way through every single Transformers movie. You know, it's just a big commercial for Chevy, in my opinion. But we need to bring back the Camaro. If we're going to make a M.A.S.K movie, you need to keep the vehicles original. And of course, it's going to be CGI. I mean, we're talking about a Camaro that turns with gull-wing doors that open up and turns into a jet and flies up in the air. So obviously we're going to need CGI done. You got a Jeep that turns into a boat. You've got a motorcycle that turns into a helicopter. You have a Porsche that, I mean, it's just, you need to keep those cars original, because that's what's going to draw the crowd into going to see the movie, is if you keep the vehicles original and you try to stick to the actual mask. Don't make this a movie about how they discovered how the masks work and all this stuff. Just jump right into it. We don't really even need that full of a backstory. In Venom, when it came to the evil bad guys, Miles Mayhem, he didn't care about world domination. He cared about making money. He wanted to take over, and he just wanted to kill M.A.S.K. And while we're on the subject, may I say, these guys have some of the craziest vehicles. Tractor that turned into like this whole assault, shooting missiles and lasers. And this, the motorcycle that could turn into the helicopter that shot lasers as well. Everything shot lasers at this point. But God, were they awful shots. If we could sit there and produce and beat a dead horse with Transformers, with Ninja Turtles, when it comes to 80s cartoon, I am the market. You're looking at between the ages of 30 and 45, because they were still doing reruns. And please, for the love of God, don't try a Thundercats live adaptation. We all seen what happened with Cats. We don't need Thundercats as a live adaptation. And we've already tried to reboot most of these cartoons, and the one that survives was Ninja Turtles, the Nickelodeon version, which my youngest son loves, and that's great. But I want to see a M.A.S.K movie. And yep, I am on a rant, and I love every single minute of it. And like I said, what better way to market a toy line than to make a cartoon for it, and or a comic book? Because He-Man did the same thing. They wanted to sell all these toys. They wanted to sell all these comic books, and it was such a target market. I mean, you could not turn on Saturday morning cartoons without having a commercial for Transformers toys, M.A.S.K toys, G.I. Joe toys. So if we are willing to take risks,
Enough already, Paul!
why can't we get a M.A.S.K movie? Go back to the drawing board, write up another script, keep the vehicles exactly the way they were. Get a Datsun 300ZX, get, the Chevy Camaro, get a tractor trailer, a tractor from that generation. Keep the Porsche, 928 in there. You have to keep the vehicles to where we, as your target audience, recognizes them. Don't try to appease to the newer generation, because if we go to see it, guess who's going to come to the movie theaters to go and see it? Our kids, which once again will open up the market for more toys, because I know if you came out with a movie for M.A.S.K, I'm rebuying the toys that you're going to reissue because I love it so much. Don't you agree, Matt? Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Coming up on Wednesday will be my top 5.
Like I'm gonna tell you.
I hope that maybe we can get a blog started and maybe we can start demanding we get M.A.S.K. And if you don't know what M.A.S.K is and you've never heard of this cartoon and you've never seen it, it is free on Tubi. Every episode from season 1, you don't even have to buy the box set like I have. You could just go right on the Tubi, limited amount of commercials because it's a cartoon. They don't really run too many ads. So you'll be able to sit back and enjoy it. I'm telling you, if you are in the age of, I'm going to say 25 to 45, just watch that cartoon and you will not be disappointed. Anyways, thanks for watching.
Because you are the special.
Thank you. You love me.